A man in his 20s is dead after being shot in the parking lot of a mall in Burlington. We'll have the latest on his search for the killers.
Well, airlines are trying to figure out how to bring home the thousands of Canadians who are in Cuba right now amid a U.S. oil blockade.
And City Council debates Mayor Olivia Chow's proposed budget, which includes a property tax hike of 2.2%.
And the city has issued more than $2 million worth of tickets for parking on snow routes. More than 21,000 drivers have been fined.
This is Live at 5. Hi, everybody. I'm Liz West.
I'm Bakari Savage. Welcome to Live at 5. Halton police are investigating a fatal shooting outside a mall in Burlington. Officers were called to the Burlington Centre Mall's parking lot shortly after 10 o'clock last night. They found a 24-year-old man suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to hospital. That's where he was pronounced dead. The victim, identified as Omer Niaz Muhammad, and police say they're looking for two suspects who drove off in a white SUV. We had a chance to speak to a witness who attempted to help the victim.
I was at Wings Up CM Dish, just behind that 7-Eleven right there. I heard 3 shots. At the point I heard 3 shots, I heard some commotion. I couldn't tell what was said. Within a few minutes, a few seconds later, I saw one individual who I believe who did the shooting go into a black SUV. I saw a black SUV and a white SUV drive off simultaneously.
Okay, CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live from the scene in Burlington. Steve, I have to ask this, right? This is the second mall parking lot shooting in about a week. What do you have to say about these occurrences?
Well, I would suggest that any time the police believe that a shooting is targeted, oftentimes it will occur in parking lots because that's where people exit their cars. That's where people go to park a car and get out of a car. So if you have a grudge with somebody and it is a targeted shooting, in this case a targeted homicide, you are going to go where it is easy to access the accessibility of this individual. So oftentimes they're crimes of opportunity and they happen to play themselves out in busy parking lots because that's where people park their cars. So I would suggest that there is no, or the police haven't said that there's no any connection between the shooting at Woodbine Mall just a few days ago and this shooting last night. It just happens to be, forget the mall, there are 2 parking lots where these shootings occurred, and oftentimes you will find targeted shootings occur in places like parking lots because, again, there is accessibility to that person that you've got this grudge with.
And Steve, that's a popular mall in a suburb. What about people who are feeling nervous right now, maybe about want to avoid the mall? What can you suggest to folks?
Well, targeted. Police say that there is no threat to public safety, so there is no greater danger walking through a shopping mall plaza parking lot or walking on the sidewalk. These shootings happen as a matter of opportunity, and they are things that the police make it very clear when they investigate targeted homicides that this was a targeted incident. This was a crime of opportunity. It was an isolated incident. So when you hear those things from police, that should settle people's minds when it comes to their concerns about their own safety. Look, all homicides affect the community. I speak about this all the time. A perception is reality. If you think that your community is unsafe, you're not going to do certain things. Your quality of life may be affected. But when you hear it is a targeted homicide, most often they are isolated incidents, and I believe that's what occurred here last night at this shopping mall parking lot at 10 o'clock.
And Steve, I do have to ask, what are you learning about the victim?
Well, we know that the 24-year-old man was an aspiring rapper. Now, because he was a rapper, it certainly doesn't mean that this homicide was as a result of the rapping industry, if you will. The police will follow the evidence. They certainly won't have a tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is something that you certainly do not want to participate in if, in fact, you are the lead investigator on a homicide. You go where the evidence takes you. They certainly will look into his background. They'll look into any persons that may have had animus against him, going back as far as they need to, and then they'll build their case from there. So it is a starting point. When you have a targeted homicide, you certainly will learn through social media feeds and through witnesses as to who may have had a grudge with this individual. But because he was a rapper or an aspiring rapper, certainly doesn't mean that it was the rapping industry that caused his homicide, but it certainly will be something that the investigators will look into.
Okay, live in Burlington, CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan.
A former church youth director is wanted in a sexual assault investigation in Peel region. 24-year-old Christopher Brito de Rujo is facing multiple charges, including sexual assault, sexual exploitation, and voyeurism. Now, Peel police say the alleged assaults occurred at a place of worship in Brampton. Investigators say the suspect fled Canada for Brazil earlier this month. So anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
All right, it's 5:05. Let's head live to the TTC Transit Control Center. This is where Senior Communications Advisor Samantha TC is back, joining us live. Welcome back, Samantha.
Thanks, Bakari. Happy to be back. So things are moving quite well this afternoon. We did have a brief delay along our line 2 Bloor-Danforth with a signal issue in the west end between Kipling and Jane stations. That is all clear and things are back to normal service in that area. Now looking at service on line 5 and 6, things are moving well throughout this rush hour with no delays reported. Now over to our streetcar routes, the 504 King and 508 Lakeshore streetcars are detouring eastbound around the intersection of King and Dunn Avenue because of a medical emergency on board a streetcar. So streetcars in that area when going eastbound will continue from Roncesvalles along Queen Street, turning down Shaw Street back to its regular route on King. Now, just before I go, a quick reminder to passengers that travel late night. We do have a planned subway closure on the portion of Line 1 tonight starting at 11 p.m. between St. Clair West and St. Andrew stations for station work. Shuttle buses will run. Now, for the latest, make sure to check us out on ttc.ca, and I'm going to send it back to you, Bakari and Liz, in the newsroom.
All right, Senior Communications Advisor Samantha TC.
And most Canadian airlines are canceling flights to Cuba. This is due to the U.S. oil blockade. Air Transat has scrapped all of its flights between Feb. 11th and April 30th, with refunds being sent out to those impacted. Now, WestJet is also winding down its winter operations to the island. Nation Air Canada says it will send flights to Cuba to pick up the approximately 3,000 passengers that are already there.
Okay, let's go live to CP24's Andrew Brennan. Andrew, you're at Pearson Airport. You've been talking to travelers coming back from Cuba.
Yeah, and guys, I know, when you hear, for instance, the president of Cuba saying that they're going into a zero-option scenario, which, by the way, dates back to the Fidel Castro era, was something talked about as, no one goes to school, no one goes to work, no fuel, there's no fuel for anything, rolling blackouts, and that was already something that had been talked about, again, for a long time, but that's something that is now in practice happening in Cuba, or at least that's where the government is saying things are going. When we talk to people coming back, though, having that as the news surrounding you does certainly bring some anxiety. And we were speaking to people, there was Mary coming back with her husband. We spoke to her not long ago, a few other people on the flight that was coming in from Air Canada here at Terminal 1. And they talked about, one, that anxiety, but also the fact that the impacts that it was having, the fuel shortage on their lives was, minimal for them, more so for the people living in Cuba and working at their resorts. But then on the flip side, trying to get home once all of the flights were no longer going to be operating going south, that also added a little bit more to that anxiety. Here's more.
Nobody really seemed too
Concerned?
panicky about being there, so, but anyway, we get back.
We are on Cayo Coco, so the people don't live there, so they're all out of a job. So, and the resort over the last couple of days got less and less and less, so it was really uncomfortable this morning looking around, eating and seeing all the empty chairs. So yeah, it was really sad.
And some of the other people that were speaking coming off of that flight, which, by the way, is coming in from Cayo Coco, and they were saying, they were seeing a little bit of like musical chairs happening, proverbially speaking, with people from some resorts that are experiencing shortages in fuel or food were being moved to other resorts, and then everyone sort of having that domino effect of musical chairs, seeing that still happening as they were leaving. But the big thing Air Canada and also WestJet have been saying to the passengers that are down south right now, guys, but maybe didn't book a trip back yet, or it could be within like a week or more from now, that there are options to rebook without any surcharges or otherwise, or to book a flight. There is room on Air Canada and WestJet flights to be able to come back if their plans need to change now. So some perspectives from folks here at Terminal 1. We'll send it back to you inside.
Read live from Pearson, CP24's Andrew Brennan.
And we're also hearing from GTHA residents currently in Cuba. So let's bring in CP24's Arda Zakarian with more on this. Arda?
Bakari and Liz, I had a chance to speak with one person from Toronto who's in Kayokoko right now. He has a flight booked with Air Canada for tomorrow, but he's there with his wife and his 4-year-old son. He says that they've been experiencing the snowball effect from the fuel shortage, such as power outages, hot water only twice in the week. And they've said that they've seen the employees at the resort being shuttled in by a bus, and instead of being shuttled in by a bus every single day like they have been, they've been asked to stay there for the week. Here's more from Leon Lee.
I think more communication. I mean, we didn't register with the government that we're here. Also, Air Canada, again, I don't think this was on anybody's bingo cards for 2026, right? So give credit where credit is due. They are dealing with an incredibly difficult situation. So most of the people, are patient and are, for the most part, understanding.
Well, we had a chance to speak with another person from Vaughan who's in Havana right now. He says it's business as usual. He says his hotel doesn't have power outages or has plenty of hot water. The only thing that really stood out to him is walking through Havana. There were long lineups in front of the ATM, people wanting to pull out money. So there was a little bit of urgency there. But on the whole, he said even vehicles were on the street as usual. You can get a taxi, you can get other cars as well. So the fuel shortage wasn't as obvious in Havana, even though he said when you speak to the people there, the locals, they tell a different story of how they are suffering. Back to you.
Okay.
Thanks for that. That's CP24's Arta Zakarian. It's 5:11, 2 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up next, we're going to take you live to City Hall. The Stewart Council is debating the proposed budget, which includes a TTC fare freeze.
Millions of dollars in parking tickets have been issued because of vehicles blocking snow routes as the city continues to work to clear streets. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with more on this story. Melissa?
Hey there, Liz. Yeah, so we're just getting word from the city, by the way, that as of 5 o'clock this afternoon, the major snow condition declaration, it has come to an end. That was put in place after we saw those 2 big snowstorms last month. The city saw some 90 centimeters of snow, and that declaration was put in place to kind of expedite the snow clearing process. What we're hearing from the city that up until this morning, crews removed some 300,000 tons of snow. So a lot of work there. That update coming after we learned from Toronto police earlier today that during that major snow declaration, they handed out some 21,000 plus tickets to drivers who were parked in snow routes. Where I am right now in downtown Toronto, especially, there are a lot of those snow routes, places where people are told not to park so that snow could be cleared out. And when you tally up all of those tickets, they're worth more than $2 million. And get this, the total cost of all of that actually going to be higher because that number of $2 million plus bucks, those tickets only covered the period from January 15th to the 30th. So, of course, we had like another 11 days after that. So expect an update on that total for those tickets in the near future. As for snow clearing efforts that are currently underway from the city, we are hearing that while this major snow condition has come to an end, there are some isolated areas that do still need some snow clearing. So that might be in your area. There might be some bike routes, that sort of thing, where you're thinking, hey, still have to get rid of this snow. The city says that they are still working on that, and they do expect that to be cleared up in the very near future. And of course, Liz and Bakari, the weather is helping us out right now. A much milder day today. We're seeing that melting take effect right now, and those milder conditions going to stretch throughout the rest of the week. So Mother Nature, Bakari and Liz, also helping out with these snow clearing efforts. Back to you.
Yeah, it's definitely been confusing with the snow route signs, and yet people are still parking there. I found myself confused this morning. Could I buy a ticket or not? Because it looks like it's business as usual, and the signs have been there for so long.
Yeah, well, now we know.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Melissa.
And Toronto City Council is debating Mayor Olivia Chow's proposed budget today. For the latest from City Hall, let's go live to CP24's Phil Perkins. Phil.
Hey, the Bakari and Liz. Yeah, so Mayor Olivia Chow is billing this 2026 operating budget as trying to make Toronto more affordable. It's no secret, Toronto, very expensive to live in, and Mayor Olivia Chow says doing things like increasing the property tax by just 2.2%. That is the lowest increase since she's ever been mayor. They have a TTC fare freeze, meaning you're not going to be paying more to get on the TTC. There's going to be a fare cap, meaning if you ride it 47 times in a calendar month, the rest of the month, it's going to be absolutely free. We've also wondered, how are they paying for all this? They've increased the police budget by over $90 million. The TTC budget is $1.48 billion. That's exactly what they wanted. And so what the city has done, they've had a couple efficiencies or cuts around $788 million. They've increased the Toronto Water and Solid Waste Management. They've increased those payments by 3.75%. That's not nothing. But one thing they've done, and that has been the ire of some of the councillors here in City Hall, is that they've delved into the city's reserve fund at $1.7 billion. That's the most amount ever taken out of the rainy day fund. We heard City Councillor Brad Bradford saying that's kind of like using your RRSPs to pay for your groceries because you're not bringing in enough income. And so Mayor Olivia Chow and Brad Bradford kind of had it back and forth against each other about this. Here is Olivia Chow touting her budget, and then Brad Bradford accusing Mayor Olivia Chow of trying to buy Torontonians' votes in what is an election year.
You want a city where if you work here, you can afford to live here, where the person who serves you coffee in the morning or cares for your aging parents can actually afford to live in the neighborhoods they serve. So we're asking the top 2% of the luxury property buyers to pay more. That seems more than fair to me. And we're going after the speculators who leave homes empty and drive up prices for everybody. These two measures bring in about $250 million in 2026.
Let's be very clear. This is Mayor Chow's re-election budget. She is attempting to buy Torontonians' vote with this budget. But to my mind, she is kicking the financial can down the road. And, if Mayor Chow is re-elected, Torontonians will pay for this in subsequent budgets. This is one of the most financially irresponsible budgets that has ever come out of the city, because you can't raid the reserve accounts to the extent that she is and expect that that's going to be sustainable on a go-forward basis.
And Shelley Carroll, who is the budget chair, says that people shouldn't be worried about delving into this rainy day fund because she says there's still $10 billion remaining. As we're taking looks at the TTC right now, again, their budget at $1.48 billion, and that fare freeze and fare cap, all in attempts to make the city more affordable. Coming up next half hour, we're going to also hear from the police chief, Myron Demkew, about the police budget, again, increased by $93 million, and this that was put in beforehand, but now we have the results of Project South, which has been a major black eye for the Toronto Police Service. More on that in a couple of minutes.
Okay, live from City Hall, CP24's Phil Perkins. It's 5:19, holding it 2 above 0, but feeling more like 2 below. This is Live at 5.
And up ahead, the latest on U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to prevent the opening of the new Windsor-Detroit bridge. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he spoke with Donald Trump today. This after the U.S. president threatened to hold up the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge in Windsor. The bridge linking Ontario with Michigan is set to open this year. But Trump says he won't allow that until after America is, quote, fully compensated. He claims the structure is built with virtually no U.S. content and suggests the U.S. should own half the bridge, which was paid for by Canada. Carney spoke earlier about his conversation with Trump.
I explained that Canada, of course, paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion, that the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada, and that in the construction of the bridge, obviously there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that are involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries.
Premier Doug Ford says he's confident the bridge will open despite Trump's threats.
And I'll tell you the reason why it's going to open, because it's in the best interest of the American economy, the Americans, the 13 Congress people that are going for re-election in the midterms, which the Republicans own probably 7 of those seats. and 1 Senate seat as well. And the worst thing you could do is hurt the American economy and continue to hurt the American economy.
CTV political commentator Scott Reed spoke to CP24 about the latest salvo from Trump in his dispute with Canada.
Here's the big takeaway. If you're Prime Minister Carney, you have to say to yourself, we're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5 of these literally insane eruptions between now and when? The beginning of CUSMA, the midterms. I mean, this has the frantic, desperate, incoherent markings of someone who's just throwing stuff out the window.
Canada and Michigan signed an agreement back in 2012, paving the way for the project to move ahead. And under the deal, Canada agreed to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the crossing through a public-private partnership. The agreement also states the bridge will be publicly owned by Canada and Michigan, and that iron and steel for key components must be sourced from either country.
Well, Trump is expected to deal a major blow to the fight against climate change this week. The White House is poised to revoke a scientific finding that's been the basis for U.S. action to reduce emissions. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, will issue a final rule rescinding a 2009 government declaration known as the endangerment finding. That Obama-era policy determined that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. In a statement, Trump's press secretary says it'll be the most significant deregulatory actions in history that will further unleash American energy dominance and drive down costs.
524, 2 degrees, feels like -2. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, another Raptor has been selected to play in this weekend's All-Star game. Another Raptor's heading to the NBA All-Star game.
That's right over top. There you go, right over top. You saw it, Matt. All over. Ingram, count it. Can we get continuation?
Brandon Ingram, chosen to replace the injured Steph Curry on Team USA. It's his second appearance after making it in 2020. That's when he was in New Orleans. So he joined Scotty Barnes on the All-Star team, while teammates Colin Murray Boyles and Elijah Martin will play in the Rising Stars game. Plus, coach Darko Rajakovic has been named the coach of Team World. NBA All-Star celebrations start Friday in Los Angeles. Okay, so this is Brandon Ingram getting the good news during practice today, much to the obvious delight of his teammates. NBA All-Star celebrations, again, they start Friday night in Los Angeles. You going?
No, but I want to be part of that party that we're looking at right now. It's 2 degrees, -2, 528. This is Live at 5.
Canadian Airlines are canceling flights to Cuba due to the U.S. oil blockade. We'll hear from some GTA residents who are in Cuba right now, coming up. A man in his 20s is dead after being shot in the parking lot of a mall in Burlington. We're going to have the latest on the search for his killer.
Airlines trying to figure out how to bring home thousands of Canadians who are in Cuba right now amid a U.S. oil blockade.
And City Council debates Mayor Olivia Chow's proposed budget, which includes a property tax hike of 2.2%.
And the city's issued more than $2 million worth of tickets for parking on snow routes. More than 21,000 drivers have been fined.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
I'm Liz West, and welcome to Live at 5. We have breaking news. Police have made an arrest in the shooting death of a teen inside a Tim Hortons in Scarborough last week. 16-year-old Kian Sam died in hospital after he was shot in the restaurant at Lawrence and Bellamy. That was last Thursday afternoon. Police say a 15-year-old boy was arrested today and is charged with second-degree murder, possession of a firearm without holding a license, and possession of a loaded regulated firearm.
Holton police are investigating a fatal shooting outside of a mall in Burlington. Officers were called to the Burlington Centre Mall's parking lot just after 10 o'clock last night. They found a 24-year-old man had been shot. He was taken to hospital. That's where he was pronounced dead. And the victim has been identified as Omer Niaz Muhammad. And police say that they are looking for 2 suspects who drove off in a white SUV. We had a chance to speak to a witness who attempted to help the victim.
I made my way over to the vehicle in question. It was a white sedan. The individual, when I got over there, I saw the window had been shot out. All the glass was shattered. The individual was slouched over. I noticed a round had impacted the man's neck, and I applied pressure to there. I began some basic CPR, and again, while applying pressure, I also undid the gentleman's zipper to see if he had taken any rounds to the chest. I didn't see any. I just applied pressure to the neck, waited for EMS and police to get here.
CP24 crime analyst Steve Ryan is joining us live right now from the scene in Burlington. And Steve, this is kind of an event that would really rattle a community. What are police doing right now in terms of trying to piece together what happened?
You know, Liz, that's a great point, and let me just add to what you were saying there. I was near Beatrice Vaisman when she interviewed that young man who we just played a clip of, and you could hear the angst in his voice, his body language. It just goes to show, and I talk about this all the time, homicides not only affect the family of the deceased whose life was wiped out, it also affects the community, and it affects people who happen to witness these occurrences. And this young man happened to be the first on scene after these shots were fired. So it really does give you an understanding as to just how devastating a homicide investigation can be, not only to the immediate family of the person that lost their life, but also to the community as well. So with regards to this investigation, the police have been on scene here throughout the day. They have said that this is a targeted shooting, an isolated incident. So they'll now go back and they will review and investigate any past history that this 24-year-old may have had with other people. Now, because you've got animus with somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you've killed them, but this certainly is a starting point for police as they go back in his history to see who had grudges with this person, because it certainly does appear, according to the police, of course, and with what that man said to us earlier on, that this 24-year-old was shot in his vehicle. The window was smashed out. So it really does give you an idea as to a crime of opportunity whereby they saw this person, they knew there was a grudge, they had a grudge or some sort of animus towards him, and they took advantage of that isolated incident, and unfortunately they shot and killed this 24-year-old, and now the police are looking for 2 suspects.
Okay, so, Steve, this happened in a mall parking lot. Let's talk about the number of cameras, the visibility of this potential crime.
Yeah, great point. And there are very good video surveillance cameras in this area here. So the police now have a suspect vehicle, perhaps even 2 vehicles. They are looking for at least a white-colored SUV. So if they have clear images of that car, they can actually go to an automotive engineer and they can get the exact specs of that vehicle, make, model, the year that that vehicle was built. And then if they need to, they can get the registered owners of that said car, and you can expand your list. Start with Halton Region, Peel Region, the City of Toronto, and if you need to get wider, you get wider, but that gives them an avenue to track down that vehicle if, in fact, that car was a car that was registered to one of the suspects, or at least to somebody who was involved. If it was a stolen car, that's another story, but having the make, model of the vehicle specifically certainly is a key piece of evidence that certainly open a lot more doors when it comes to any homicide investigation.
All right, thanks for that update. That's CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan. And most Canadian airlines are canceling flights to Cuba. This is due to the U.S. oil blockade. CP24's Andrew Brennan is now live at Pearson. And Andrew, you're talking to travelers that have just come back from Cuba.
Yes, and Liz Bakari, some of the people that we've spoken to saying that they were hearing a lot about the fuel shortage, seeing some effects on the impact on their stay was in some cases minor, in some cases having to move hotels, but really there was some anxiety, particularly for those that may have been looking to stay longer on the return home. But most of the people that we've spoken to, just to make sure what the general vibe and mentality was, they didn't feel like they had any added problems or security issues while they were down in Cuba. The rebooking or booking of flights and getting on flights from Cuba despite the fuel shortage, they told us no problems. As much as there are challenges when it comes to ensuring there's enough fuel for air carriers and their aircraft coming into the country, what the people are saying to us is that they believe that this may have more of an impact on the locals there that are more very dependent on tourist dollars than it did on their flight home. Listen to some of the people that we spoke to.
We were lucky. I mean, we happened to be here last year when Sunwing went on strike, so we get caught for 2 days down there as well, right? So it's becoming a wee bit of a habit. But no, we seem quite content, and I took it that Air Canada would make sure that everybody got back.
While we were there, we kept hearing about it. And then as it got closer to our date leaving, it was scary. I'm going to cry. And it was really sad to be with the resort people, the staff, leaving onto the plane. Everyone's just so sad there.
Now, for people out there, particularly if you're one of those dedicated viewers, like a man from North Bay who just walked by, who watched CP24, despite them not being in our neck of the woods, just to make sure Air Canada and Air Transat, as well as WestJet, are talking about that repatriation process, how there are waived fees for anyone who may be looking to rebook and come back early. Also, with the fuel shortage, we know right now that there are empty planes leaving from Toronto every day and coming back with people. But for how long that does remain to be seen, for just in terms of giving people some perspective. We'll send it back to you for now, Liz and Bakari. Just hearing from people here, some anxiety, but in terms of the impacts on their trip, very little. It's going to be impacting the locals that much more.
All right, thanks for that. That's CP24's Andrew Brennan live at Pearson Airport.
And we're also hearing from GTHA residents currently in Cuba. For this, we turn to CP24's Arda Zakarian joining us live from the newsroom. Arda.
We were able to catch up with one man from Toronto who's in Cayo Coco right now, and he says he is feeling the effects of the fuel shortage. For example, he's had multiple power outages throughout his stay. Also, there has been hot water only twice at his resort during his entire week that he's been there. He's on an Air Canada flight coming home tomorrow. He's there with his wife and his 4-year-old. So you can imagine how difficult that is. Also, dealing with a child, too, having to take cold showers. That's not easy. He did say that there's also one thing that he noticed. Usually the staff is brought in by a shuttle every single day to the resort. However, they've asked the staff to actually stay for the week because they don't have the fuel to operate the shuttle. So that's also pretty difficult, especially for the locals who have to stay away from their family in order to be able to continue to work. And then I had a chance to catch up with another person. He is from Vaughan and he's in Havana right now. He says the effects of the fuel shortage aren't felt as deeply as they are in Cayo Coco. He says everything seems to be business as usual here. His hotel rather has enough fuel. There's been no power outages, enough hot water. He says even the vehicles and taxis are on the road as usual. He hasn't seen anything major. However, he did say that there were long lineups in front of the ATM and people were only able to take out a certain amount of money. So there was that. Also, he said he brought luggage filled with supplies. Here he is.
Once you go off the main streets is when you see piles of garbage everywhere on the streets. The bank, as I showed you before, many people lined up just to use an ATM machine. Also, I came here with 2 luggages full of supplies for dogs and cats, Tylenol, you name it. I brought it all. When I'm handing out the pet food, some people are taking it for themselves.
So as a tourist, he says you might not feel the effects very strongly, but the locals tell a different story. They say how difficult this time has been and things are just getting worse. Back to you.
Okay, joining us live from the newsroom, CP24's Arda Zakarian.
And now let's head to the TTC Transit Control Center, where Senior Communications Advisor Samantha TC joins us. How are things running, Samantha?
Thanks so much, Liz. So things are actually moving quite well, pretty uneventful for us here, with no delays reported on any of our underground routes or on line 5 or 6. Firstly, if you are going to be traveling along line 5, just as a reminder, if you do like to travel late at night, we are in the first phases of opening on line 5. So if you are traveling past 11 p.m., train service will stop running, but we got you covered with plenty of extra shuttle buses that will run along the length of the Eglinton corridor. Now, turning over to our bus and streetcar routes, we did have an earlier issue in the area of King and Dunn Avenue with a medical emergency on one of our streetcars, but that has since cleared. So regular service has resumed to the 504 King and 508 Lakeshore routes. Now, to stay up to date with the latest, make sure to visit us on ttc.ca or follow at TTC Notices on X. And that's it from us. Sending it back to you, Bakari and Liz in the newsroom.
Thank you for that, Samantha. It's 5:41, 2 degrees, feels like -2, and this is Live at 5.
And coming up next, we're going to take you live to City Hall, where Council discussing the proposed budget, which includes a TTC fare freeze.
Toronto City Council has just approved this year's budget. And for the latest from City Hall, let's go live to CP24's Phil Perkins. Phil?
Hey there, Elizabeth Carr. Yeah, it's an $18.9 billion budget, and the city had to get creative. They were facing over $360 million in some cost issues. We have the speed cameras no longer a thing in this city. TTC ridership, that has dropped down, so they had to try to find money elsewhere. They cut around $788 million from services, but they're only increasing property taxes by 2.2%. And how are they going to be paying for some of these city expenses? They're increasing the vacant home tax for people who they're considered speculators, increasing the property tax on luxury homes that are $3 million plus. They're also increasing the Toronto Water and Solid Waste Management fee that we pay at 3.75%. So Mayor Olivia Chow says she's doing all this to try to make the city more affordable. She is freezing TTC fares. You're not going to be paying any more. And if you ride it 47 times in a month, the rest of the month is going to be free. Another highlight is the police budget, $1.43 billion. It got a boost of $93 million. I also want to add that the city spent $44 million on policing multiple protests across the city last year alone. But all of this is in the now lens of the fallout from Project South, where 8 Toronto cops, 1 retired, now facing criminal charges tied to organized crime. We do now know that 2 have also been suspended, but they're facing Police Service Act charges. And so Chief Martin Demkiw, who was in-house, I'm going to give you a warning. He had a very sore throat. He's got a cold, but he was asked, the police are getting a massive boost, nearly $100 million. Do they deserve that just after seeing what has come out from Project South, and what do they need to do to regain the public's trust?
This budget supports our multi-year hiring plan, and part of our multi-year hiring plan spoke about the need for us to reconstitute our capacity to deliver frontline services, but also to ensure we had adequate and appropriate supervision. Given the growth of our organization, younger members doing very difficult, unpredictable work. So this allows us to continue our multi-year hiring plan, which will allow us to continue the promotions we need. I'm confident we're headed in the right direction, and we're going to continue to go in the right direction. As I said 2 years ago, this is going to take some time for us to rebuild the capacity we need to get to where this city needs, given the growth of this city and the complexities of the city. This budget is allowing us to continue moving our multi-year hiring plan forward, which is essential to us meeting the needs of this city.
And there were some critics of this budget because $1.7 billion was taken from our reserve fund, and some councillors thinking that we're kind of kicking the can down the road in terms of affordability in this city. Yes, we have a 2.2% property tax raise now, but Councillor Brad Bradford, who is running for mayor, accusing Mayor Olivia Chow that she's trying to buy voters. I just want to let you know Mayor Olivia Chow has not confirmed officially that she is seeking re-election, but Bradford is saying next year, the 2027 budget, they're going to have to find a way to pay off this $1.7 billion, and he is saying, he's doing the math, saying that could result in a property tax, not a 2.2% increase, but over 10% increase to pay off that money that was taken out. Back to you, too.
All right. Thanks for that, Phil. That's Phil Perkins live at City Hall.
Well, millions of dollars in parking tickets have been issued because of vehicles blocking snow routes. This as the city continues to work to clear streets. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with more. Melissa.
Hey there, Ricard. Yeah, so kind of a standout number we're getting today. More than $2 million worth of parking tickets handed out when we saw those 2 snowstorms in January. When that went out to drivers parked illegally in snow route areas. Toronto police saying more than 21,000 tickets handed out in all. And get this, those tickets went out between January 15th and January 30th. But that major snow condition continued after that, so another 11 days. So that number expected to rise significantly. Looking for an update on that as soon as those numbers are available. And of course, those tickets that were handed out, not cheap. $500 if you're caught parking illegally in a snow route. And then if your vehicle's towed, on top of that, you're forking out more. So just not a good idea to park in those areas. You definitely want to avoid it. We are getting an update, by the way, from the city of Toronto about that major snowstorm condition. That's a declaration that's made to, really ramp up efforts efforts to clean up snow removal in the city. Well, that declaration officially coming to an end at 5 p.m. today. Of course, Mother Nature helping with all of that, too. We are seeing these temperatures rise. A nice mild day today. A lot of snow melting going on, and that's going to continue for much of this week as well. But something that the city is also saying that since January 16th, crews have removed some 300,000 tons of snow from the city. And their efforts aren't done yet. While that declaration has come to an end, the city also saying that their snow removal efforts, those efforts have not come to an end. So you might have some narrow streets in your area, some bike lanes, some sidewalk areas that might not be perfectly cleared right now. The city saying that they are still working on all of that, but they are nearing the end of their snow clearing efforts. But yeah, a real standout number to hear, some $2 million worth of parking tickets handed out after the city saw some 90 centimeters worth of snow. And again, that number expected to climb. Back to you, Bakari and Liz.
Reporting live, CP24's Melissa Duggan. It's now 5:49, holding at 2 above zero. This is Live at 5.
And up ahead, the latest on U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to prevent the opening of the Windsor-Detroit bridge.
Well, parents of children with diabetes want the education ministry to step up its standard of care for diabetes in schools. So they say right now the supervision and help the children get it varies widely from classroom to classroom and board to board. Technological advances in the management of type 1 diabetes mean that most kids wear a pump that administers insulin. And parents can monitor those levels through an app. A spokesperson for Education Minister Paul Calandra says the policy is under review.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney says he spoke with Donald Trump today after the U.S. president threatened to hold up the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge in Windsor. Now, the bridge linking Ontario with Michigan is set to open this year, but Trump says he won't allow that until America is, quote, fully compensated. He claims the structure is built with virtually no U.S. content and suggests that U.S. should own half the bridge, which was paid for by Canada. Now, Premier Doug Ford says he's confident the bridge will open, this despite Trump's threats.
He fast-tracked it in 2017. And so all of a sudden he changed his mind and said it's not good. So that's a false fact. And number two, that after the tolls, we pay off our share of the bridge. It's going to be Michigan that owns half of it. So this was all agreed to. It's going to enhance the American economy and obviously the Canadian economy.
The history of the bridge is that Canada and Michigan signed an agreement back in 2012, paving the way for the project to move ahead. And under the deal, Canada did agree to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the crossing through a public-private partnership. Now, the agreement also states the bridge will be publicly owned by Canada and Michigan, and that iron and steel for key components must be sourced from either country.
Right now, it's 5:54, holding at 2 above zero. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, Canada's women's hockey team takes on the U.S. in preliminary round action at the Winter Games in Italy.
Well, parents of children with diabetes want the education ministry to step up its standard of care for diabetes in schools. So they say right now the supervision and help the children get it varies widely from classroom to classroom and board to board. Technological advances in the management of type 1 diabetes mean that most kids wear a pump that administers insulin. And parents can monitor those levels through an app. A spokesperson for Education Minister Paul Calandra says the policy is under review.
And Prime Minister Mark Carney says he spoke with Donald Trump today after the U.S. president threatened to hold up the opening of the Gordie Howe International Bridge in Windsor. Now, the bridge linking Ontario with Michigan is set to open this year, but Trump says he won't allow that until America is, quote, fully compensated. He claims the structure is built with virtually no U.S. content and suggests that U.S. should own half the bridge, which was paid for by Canada. Now, Premier Doug Ford says he's confident the bridge will open, this despite Trump's threats.
He fast-tracked it in 2017. And so all of a sudden he changed his mind and said it's not good. So that's a false fact. And number two, that after the tolls, we pay off our share of the bridge. It's going to be Michigan that owns half of it. So this was all agreed to. It's going to enhance the American economy and obviously the Canadian economy.
The history of the bridge is that Canada and Michigan signed an agreement back in 2012, paving the way for the project to move ahead. And under the deal, Canada did agree to design, build, finance, operate, and maintain the crossing through a public-private partnership. Now, the agreement also states the bridge will be publicly owned by Canada and Michigan, and that iron and steel for key components must be sourced from either country.
Right now, it's 5:54, holding at 2 above 0. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, Canada's women's hockey team takes on the U.S. in preliminary round action at the Winter Games in Italy. The latest now from the Winter Games in Italy, where Canada's women's hockey team saw its first defeat. The Canadian squad was blanked 5-0 by the U.S. in preliminary round action. Canada was playing without injured captain Marie-Philippe Poulin, and the Canadians now have 2 wins and a loss and play Finland next on Thursday. The team of Courtney Sarrault, Kim Boutin, Felix Roussel, and William Dangenou finishing less than half a second behind Italy. It's the first silver for Canada after a pair of bronze medals in speed skating and freestyle skiing.
Well, back here at home, Mirvish announcing its lineup for the year. Okay, the Broadway hit Operation Mincemeat, a Second World War set comedy, will have its Canadian premiere in Toronto in October. Musical adaptations of 13 going on 30, and The Karate Kid also coming to town. They're part of the 7 main productions Mirvish is putting on this year. There are 12 other shows as part of the lineup, and a full list can be found on the Mirvish website. Right now, it is 5:58, holding at 2 above 0, but feeling more like 2 below 0. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
And we continue to follow breaking news. Police have made an arrest in the fatal shooting of a 16-year-old boy inside a Tim Hortons that was in Scarborough last week. A 15-year-old boy has been charged with second-degree murder.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.